Okay, guys, welcome back. I am going to try to do this as smoothly as I can. The first time I did this, it did not record the video of me right now talking and all that, but it did record my screen, so that's cool. But now I've got to go through and try to figure out what I was saying uh, while I was doing this originally. So this could be entertaining to watch. We'll see. But so far, we've been talking about using drones for like drone delivery, using the drone announce systems to get message out, keep people updated with information, and to do mapping of possible test site areas. And our current assignment is more on using it for a patrolling aspect, whether you're looking for if you're a lifeguard looking for people that are in distress on the water, if you're the police trying to get a tactical advantage and seeing what's in front of you, or if you don't have a lot of police officers to patrol, or you don't have backup units, so you send a drone in to kind of get an overall picture before you go in, something like that, or you're looking for petty crimes or something like that with your drone. Those are some things that we can use. But when we're looking at this kind of stuff, we're mostly thinking about the cities, right? We're not really thinking about the rural areas where we've got our farms, like out in Mulberry or Rudy or maybe Charleston, somewhere just kind of out in the country. Because it doesn't make a whole lot of sense for us to be trying to bring the drone technology into there for patrolling aspects. We're not going to be setting up, we're probably not going to be setting up test sites in the middle of somebody's farm because it doesn't make a lot of sense. Not a lot of people go there. Everybody's going to have to figure out how to get there. We're going to do it in a city where there's more people, where we know what's going on. So because of that, we need to take a look at some of the considerations we need to have in mind when we're going to be flying drones in the urban environment. So there are several different ways we can go about this, but I'm going to show you the app we use, which is Airmap. At the beginning of the year, I had you install it all on your phones, and I realized that probably 2 days later it got deleted from your phone, so we could free up some memory and space and all that other good stuff that we hold so dear and valuable on our phones. So initially, whenever we were going to fly in an area with an airport, within 5 miles of an airport, we would have to call the airport and talk to the airport manager, whoever's in charge of the airport, and get approval for them to fly. Which initially, when there wasn't very many drones out and about, it was still kind of a new thing, like, I don't know, 2016 even. It wasn't a big deal. But as they've become bigger, it's become a bigger issue. It went to where you would just call the control tower and ask for permission, and they'd be like, okay, that's fine. Or no, you can't go fly there. But now it's evolved into a deal where there's a lot of requests going out to fly drones, a lot of places. So it doesn't make sense to call a person on the phone at an airport who probably has hours that he works and doesn't want to be talking to people all day, every day. It doesn't make sense to use that system. So we've got a more automated system. It is called the LANC system, LAANC, and it stands for the Low Altitude Authorization and Notification Capability. So with LANC, you can basically submit your flight plan, what you want to do, where you're going to do it at, and send it over to the FAA, to the Air Traffic Control Center. Previously, as far back as last summer, if you wanted to do that, you would send in your LANC request, and a person physically had to look at that request and click approve or deny on their computer. So if you were wanting to fly on Saturday, but you decided you didn't want to really file anything or plan it out a whole lot until Friday night, because I mean, within 24 hours, you know what the weather's going to be like. You know what you're going to want to do. That makes sense, right? So, if, say, Friday at 5:30 p.m., you go in and you put in your flight plan, it gets sent, and it sits there, and it sits there, and it sits there. Saturday comes around, you haven't heard nothing. Sunday comes around, you don't even care now because you've already passed your time to fly. Monday comes around, then you get a letter that says, oh, or you get an email that says, oh, your flight was denied because we're past the parameters, or something to that effect. Well, it was because the guy that approved them went home at 5 o'clock on Fridays. So if you sent a request in after 5 o'clock, it would sit there until Monday morning when he came to work. Just how it was. But now it's automated. It's got its own stuff that it goes through to figure out if you're good to go or not. And the Airmap app and the other Lance apps that are out there, we just use Airmap. They're good at helping you figure out how you're going to get that instant authorization to fly. Now, you could submit a flight plan on this, get that instant authorization, and when the air traffic controller that's over it for the area is going through looking at stuff, he might be like, there's something going on that isn't really being publicized, but it's not going to be good to fly a drone right there. So he could, at that point, retroactively deny it, and it's going to shoot you a text message, send a message across your app, say, hey, you are no longer good to fly. Your flight plan is void. Do not fly. And at that point, you've been notified. It's logged multiple places that you've been notified. So if you fly, something happens, you're in trouble. So anyway, going into Airmap, we're here at Northside High School is what we've got pulled up. Pull it up because that's where we're at. We're all familiar with it. It's in Fort Smith. It's within 5 miles of the airport. So as we're zooming out here, you'll start to notice these grid lines, the blue grids, and then you see this 200 with a line over it. So the blue lines is your sector that you need to pay attention to, and the number with the line is your maximum sector altitude, essentially. So 200 feet above ground level is the highest you can go within that blue area, within that blue rectangle. So that's 200 feet above the ground, period. That's not 200 feet above the press box at the football stadium or 200 feet above the chimney stack. That's 200 feet above the ground. Where that gets confusing is with our just general regulations for drones. We're used to 400 feet above the ground or above the obstacle we're flying over. Well, it doesn't work that way here because of the airspace issue. So 200 feet above ground level is all we've got. If we want to go higher, we're going to have to submit an extra request, get that authorization specifically for that altitude. As we zoom out, we're going to notice that there's more sectors around us, more numbers. Immediately to our west, you're going to notice that there is a 0 underneath the orange line, and that's going to mean it's essentially a no-fly zone. It's going to be because of Baptist Health right there, and it's helipad. So, because of that, we can't fly anywhere inside of there without having a waiver or specific authorization to do so. And that pretty much goes from 16th Street to Oklahoma, Rogers Avenue down to Q Street. And then as we're going around, we've got higher grids, 200 feet, 100 feet. As we zoom out more, you're starting to see our Class D airspace around the outside of the circle. That's going to dictate our Class D airspace. Down here, we've got some zeros, some hundreds. And now we see why. We've got the airport right here. And as you notice, on top of it and around the airport are all 0 feet or no-fly zones, essentially. As we go out away from the airport, we get higher tolerances. We can go higher, so that's all nice and good. If we're looking over here at where the CTE was going to be built, we're going to be around a 230 300 foot, it looks like. Yeah, between 200 and 300 foot ceiling, so we'll be good to go over there. So we're going to zoom in a little bit. That's the control tower at that spot right there. So zooming in, we had been talking about doing mapping and stuff. I talked a lot last week about using Ben Guerin for like a potential testing site, because you've got all these roads in here where you can funnel traffic through. You're not going to have traffic concerns on the highway with cars backing up. You've got the pavilions where you can have staging areas. You've got a rec center. But we're in that zero no-fly zone. So we can't really throw up a drone and do that without having authorization. And as you saw, we were very close to the control tower, so we can't even think, who's going to know? They'll know because they're right there looking straight at us. They can easily see Ben Guerin Park from the control tower. So don't even think about it. But as we're looking at it from here, it does look like it would be a good spot because we've got the rec center and all that. But we're in the no-fly zone. If we come down just a little bit south to where the golf course is, then we're in a 100-foot maximum altitude. So we could fly up there, and we could fly over by those apartments, but we can only go up to 100 feet, and unless we're looking at the baseball fields at Ben Guerin, from 100 feet up there, we're not going to be able to do much good. We won't be able to see the rec center or those pavilions, just that baseball field from the golf course. So we wouldn't be able to do mapping. We wouldn't be able to fly over there to transport supplies. We could sit up in the 100-foot spots and just take pictures or video. Just do some general surveillance. So there's that. As we're zooming out, you notice there's that whole circle is going to be our entire Class D airspace. And then we've got this blue down here to the bottom right. This is going to be our military operation area on the outside of it. And once we get down inside, we're going to have our restricted areas. So that's pulling up restricted area 2402 Alpha. You can click on it and it zooms into it so you can see the defined areas of the restricted area. Just to the left, there's going to be more. Another thing we want to look at is this red dot up here, this red area. You see that says Fort Smith National Historic Site. We can't fly in national parks. It shows up that it's a park and it's in controlled airspace. So all right in there is a no-fly zone. And it's still within that Class D airspace. That goes out to Moffett. So all that, Judge Parker's courthouse, the parking area. There's a little sliver by the Fort Smith Trolley Museum. I'm not really sure what that is. It looks like there's a parking area there. It's kind of a random island of national park. Down here we've got the National Cemetery. Don't recommend flying over there either. So we're gonna up here. You've got the different filters that we can use. We'll zoom out so we can get a better picture of what these filters kind of do. So again, we've got our Class D. It's listed on the 107, Part 107 rules. You can also switch it to recreational flyers, which in our area it's going to look the same. The numbers will be different colors if we were zoomed in. You can see that. But then we've got Airmap recommended guidelines that we could select. With the recommended guidelines, Airmap recommends avoiding hospitals when planning your flight. It recommends avoiding power plants when planning, avoiding prisons. Recommends avoiding schools when planning your flight, and flying cautiously within 2 miles of any heliport and within 5 miles of any airport. So that's all good stuff to know, especially when we're talking about the missions we might be doing in urban areas. That'd be good to know. So we're going to select that, and as you see, a whole lot of orange has popped up, a whole lot of warning areas essentially, or take notice areas. So we're going to zoom back down here to north side. We see this orange dot. Bet that says school. And as it's loading on my computer, yep, school, Northside High School. I bet you didn't know that by looking at the football field. So it's in that Class D. It's near the Fort Smith Regional Airport. And is within 2 miles of the Sparks Regional Medical Center, Baptist Health, heliport. So that's good to know as we're zooming out. You see over here to the left, there's Sparks Regional Medical Center, which is now Baptist Health. Up there, we've got the St. Boniface School. And then over here, like Immaculate Conception. And then again, it's got the hospital and the heliport. So those are all good things to be able to take notice of when we're flying. So that's and then again, you can also do restricted and special use airspace, national parks, public use limits, NOAA regulated overflight zones, fish and wildlife service lands, and wilderness area use limits. In our area, the only things we're really going to need to worry about are the restricted and special use airspace and national parks public use limits. That's the main thing we got to be concerned with for our area. So with that, we're gonna call it quits tonight, and I hope all the rest of your classes are going well. I hope you're doing well. If you have any questions, comments, need to chat, you can always hit me up on phone, text, email, however you need to. Until then, I will see you tomorrow.